can you grab my pad? Hello, hello, hello. Let's hope that we are a go. And let's see who is going to be joining us. Hello, guys.
Hi. Hello, hello, hello. Very interesting day today.
Yeah, and we still have Dr. Joe with us. So we're going to be talking some health and wellness, as well as giving you guys an update on some things that are happening news-wise. We want to make sure everything is rolling as far as the chat goes. I see 2 concurrent viewers. There we go. Wayne. Wayne J. Good morning. Hope it is a beautiful day.
Awesome. Great to see you here, T. Palomino. Hi from Texas back.
We had a fabulous live with Wayne, again, our Wayne Steiger, and it was just awesome over on his channel. There's Ray. Ray's in the house.
Hey, Ray. Namaste to you, too. And Talisha.
Alicia, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's a gray, rainy day here. I hope you guys can hear us. If somebody just says, we hear you in the chat room, that would be awesome, so we know everything is a go. Because yesterday we made a video and it turned out that our microphone and all our speakers were turned off in the OBS. Happens. It does happen. Unfortunately, it happens too often for us. K-Heads 2 in the house. Salutations.
Hi. It's great to see you guys. Hi, Jenny Pace. K-Heads 2. Awesome. Awesome. Great to see you guys.
Jenny's in the house, as always. This is wonderful. There's Xenomorphat.
Hi, Xenomorphat. Great to see you.
And
Dude,
thank you for letting us know. Callie here's awesome. Douglas is in the house too. Dougie.
Hi, hello, hello, hello. Great to see you. Great to see everybody.
Neil, great to see you.
Can you get that on? I can't.
Sure.
It won't work. So I know sometimes we have difficulty getting the videos to pull up on. I don't know. We just have difficulty sometimes. So Mike is fixing that, and I am going to say hello to everybody. Hello, Tori. Hello, Mariana, Christina Jones, Annie, K-Heads too. Hello again. There she is. There's our Mary D. Great to see you. Happy day. Good morning. Happy Sunday. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Love you too, Xenomorphat. Amanda Moe. Oh, yes. That was fun. That was fun. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it again and keep your ears open. We're going to set up another time. And there's just so much information that everyone has to share, and we have it from different perspectives. It's like putting together a big puzzle. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah, and we do definitely plan on working with Wayne on a regular basis. If he was so inclined, I do think he is inclined to, as it just simply felt like we were talking to family that we haven't talked to in years. It was just a beautiful thing. And so there's so much that we could go deep diving in. I was watching Wayne yesterday as I was driving, and just the subject matter that he delves into is so much of the same subject matter that we love to delve into. So absolutely awesome.
Yes, and then the other person we're going to be working with a little bit, and we're very excited, is Doc Joe. Say hello.
Hey guys, glad to be back.
Yeah, and I guess we've probably done 4 or 5 videos, lives throughout the years together, Joe. And different places. Joe was in New Mexico with us. We've been all over, and we've shared some of the road together. We've camped together.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the energy and experiences that we got to experience together as well in each one of these locations, and some of which, the one campsite that we were in New Mexico had that high vibration, and was it the Zuni that was right there?
Yeah, we were by like Zuni and Hopi area.
Zuni and Hopi, yeah, it was amazing.
Yes. Mary D.
Mary
and
D. Oh,
Oneness.
that's nice.
Beloved Oneness is in the house.
It's great to see everyone filling up. Yeah, I mean, we've had some adventures with Joe, and it was really fun, and we hope to be doing more with him in the future. So it's all wonderful.
Oh, and Xenomorphet says, yes, Dr. Joe, I have to tell you that your story was so helpful and comforting. I love hearing from you. Yeah, we're hopefully going to be doing a lot more, and there is the possibility, as Joe, well, he had a YouTube channel way before we did, and so then he went into the route of more focusing on his private practice, and so now he's coming back out and is maybe going to open up a YouTube channel again, and we'll definitely encourage everybody to subscribe when he gets the time to do that, as he's keeping busy with a bunch of things.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did have a radio talk show back in the day. This was back in, I don't know, if it was somewhere between 2008 and 2010. It was called Universal Talk. And I'm thinking about bringing that back, and maybe some other, I have some other ideas for YouTube and other platforms. But back then, the technology wasn't like it is today, where I wanted to do a live action broadcast at the time, and the technology and the internet and the Wi-Fi and everything just wasn't there, and it was kind of like I was before my time, so to speak. And now I would look, I'm like, God, it'd be so much easier today to do some of these things and get the information out there that we all need right now in order to traverse this crazy world that we're in right now.
Crazy is right. And this takes us into today's Patreon exclusive. The question is, can anybody handle this truth? And you could tell by the cover of this Patreon exclusive one of the roads it's going to deep dive into, but there may be some twists and turns in there that a lot of people just won't see coming, or are just not ready to handle. And this is what we were discussing this morning. It's like these revelations, often it's not that they're not there for you. It's just that some things can be too disconcerting to believe that they're actually real, even if they are real.
Yeah, I was blessed to have many patients. Like I worked at several different practices. I have my own practice, urgent care centers, and I was bumping elbows with people that had information. In fact, I grew up Catholic, and so there's the aspect of going to the priest and telling your sins and all that. I felt like I was a priest half the time, because the patients would come into me for an ailment or an illness, but they would feel comfortable enough to unload some information that they just had to get off of their chest. And so I had all walks of life, and whether it be working in Arizona, in New Mexico, Pennsylvania, wherever I was at, I would get similar bits of information that I kind of put this bigger puzzle together with these pieces. And it was just amazing that here these people are showing me their credentials, and once you see the bigger picture, it becomes your reality. It's a truth. And then whenever you go to, if a patient comes in and they say, oh yeah, I work at an underground base, and you're like, what? Does that really exist? And then you start to research it. Nowadays, you can find anything. I mean, the water is quite muddy, so you gotta kind of filter through it. But you can find the truth if you are so inclined to look for it. And what I used to tell people that didn't believe in some of the things I would tell them, family members, friends, I'd say, okay, prove me wrong. And so they would go in their ego mind like, oh yeah, I'm going to prove him wrong. And the next thing they come back on, oh my God, I can't believe this is even a thing.
It is. It truly is. And, there's a lot of channels. We were talking about this too. There's a lot of channels covering things from different perspectives. And so when you start looking from all these different angles, then you get a much clearer picture. You have to look from the different angles. If you only look from just one perspective, like if we're always in, say, an Abrahamic lens, you're never going to really catch the bigger picture. And this is how they have divided us. So What we're going to talk about first, though, and as you see, this is the latest. This is 23 minutes ago. Latest video showing American Airlines B787 flight AA292 on the ground at Rome Fiumicino Airport following a suspected bomb threat. And it was from Delhi to New York. This is interesting because here we go with more airline chaos. This flight took a hard turn near Turkmenistan, rerouting to Rome mid-flight after a bomb threat rocked the New York to Delhi run. What's going on here? Is it just some prankster? As you see here, you have fighters in tow right behind this plane. That's very disconcerting. I feel really bad for all the passengers. Must have been absolutely terrifying. And so, 6 hours and 46 minutes, and it's got to be a day of terror for these people. There's been so many things with the planes. So many things. You can't keep up with it. I really think, again, we've talked about this. The bigger numbers might be the same as far as number of incidents or within a small margin of error. It certainly seems like there's a lot more of these flight issues than ever before. It really feels like there's some sort of concerted effort out there to terrify people of flying and moving about.
Yeah, I look back at the last several years, and, 1 year it just seemed like the trains were all, coming off the rails. And then the next is the boats that were hitting bridges. And this seems to be the year of the airplanes. So the planes, trains, and automobiles is really in the forefront. And, what better way to keep people from traveling than to cause some kind of fear of, the unknown? Like, is this going to be my number? Is this going to be my plane that I'm going to be on, that I'm going to have this, unforeseen problem of a wheel falling off or an engine catching on fire or this bomb threat that we're seeing in the mainstream news?
I think that's such a huge question, because then also with this world we live in, you almost have to submit to the idea that, okay, when it's my time, and there are no mistakes. And honestly, that's probably one of the hardest statements for me to deal with. Sometimes things happen in my life, and all I can do is submit and say there's a reason for this. There are no mistakes, and you make the best of it. But gosh, if you were on a plane and something like that happened, I feel my stomach and my legs tingling, sinking now. It's horrible. You know what I would do energetically? I would ground. I bet you that would actually help if people knew to ground. But how many people know energetically what to do in a situation like that? They haven't been taught.
No, absolutely. Here you see wild night at LAX, back-to-back emergencies in the 9 p.m. hour on Saturday. American A321 Neo to Honolulu returned safely to LAX after an hour and a half in the air. Wow. Minutes later, a Delta A350 to Sydney reported smoke in the cabin, made a safe return. This makes three events on big passenger jets in 24 hours, guys. It just feels ominous, and it feels like there's no way this is a coincidence, to me anyway.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here as we're talking, thinking about, did we always have problems like this, but it wasn't in the news, and that they're now focusing the attention? And is it a fear factor where they're trying to scare everybody, or is this all new to, there are more and more incidents? Think about how many airplanes that go up every day. And as a pilot, flying across the country with my own plane back and forth several times, I don't remember hearing all these incidents, and, just the way the FAA works. And I just, I look at automobiles and I feel like I'm safer flying than actually in an automobile. And you see incidents all the time with an automobile accident locally that don't even really make the local news sometimes, let alone the national news. So again, I'm sitting here playing the idea of is this new, or is this just being bigged up, as far as, forefront and center to create fear? I don't know the answer to that.
Just watching the way the world is these days, that's their funnest thing. They create fear, and that is the one thing that keeps us from expanding. And that's why we should always be working on healing ourselves to a degree where we can expand. But if you have all these little bumps and hiccups in your life, you're going in all wrong directions. How do you do that? So we really have to grab hold of our own lives and do that healing, and not allow this stuff to Buddhist detachment, because this is going to happen. So it's not like you can ignore it. You can't put your head in the sand. It's not going away. It's not, but we can definitely learn how to deal with it in a better way.
Yeah, and so, I'm thinking about how blessed we are. So we have our brother Joe with us, and, Joe, besides being, somebody that has a doctor of nursing degree, he is a contractor, right? So he understands building things. He's also a pilot, guys. He's a pilot. Not only that, with him joining us, you have 3 Reiki master teachers, energy workers here. So, I think of myself as a jack of all trades, and, maybe not a master of anything but the energy side of things, so to speak. Joe's another one. We harmonize together, and I really think this is a calling of flock together. Like when we had our live with Wayne, it really feels like the greater family is starting to find each other and to come together. They've been taking subscribers away from us routinely over on Evolutionary on YouTube. But since we did a live with Wayne, the influx has been outweighing those that they are unsubscribing from us. So again, this tide is going to turn. I do think it is turning, but as you could use the airlines for a bumpy analogy here, it's going to be a rough flight, but I do think we're turning a corner in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel it. We're definitely turning a corner. Those that need to come together to help the others wake up. Candles are very, very powerful. You can take a single candle in a room full of darkness, and that candle is going to light up that whole room. Just one candle, and we have several candles coming together. So that's going to be a lot of power. That's very exciting.
Yeah, so when we're talking about flying, we talk about turbulence. And in those times of turbulence, energetically speaking, the flying through the air is kind of fluid. It's almost like if you were a great big ship at sea, and you get some waves that come in, you barely feel them. But when you're in a smaller boat, you're up and down these waves that can cause you to be nauseated and worse, dizziness. And so what I've always been told was to try to skirt the tops of these waves rather than going up and down, and that has to do with balancing. And so when you're trained in mainstream medicine, it's all about the physical aspect of the human body, and that's it. But then when you go out and you do your own research and you're like, what else is there? You may be looking into hypnotherapy or energy healing, and you find out that there's mind, body, spirit, emotional, what's the energetic part that makes us human. And again, you can't just look at one aspect. You have to look at the whole picture. If you want to get the person in homeostasis holistically, you need to look at that, but we're not trained that in mainstream. And so it was pretty odd for me to have in my urgent care centers and family practice to have one half of the building mainstream medicine and the other half was what we call alternative healing, which I really believe is actually the true healing, and the mainstream with the pharmaceuticals and all that would be alternative. And some of this, again, these variables you have to take into consideration, that the more people that think one thing at one time becomes your general reality. And so thoughts become reality. And so when a person comes into you, and that's where the placebo effect comes in. If they come in and they really believe that you give them the antibiotic, they're going to heal, again, it's their choice. It's their body, their choice. So this is what I know. You can either do mainstream, you can have an antibiotic. This is how we're trained to give you that. Or you can try something, what we consider now alternative, whether it be energy healing, hypnotherapy, herbal medicine. There's so many different things that are, other modalities, I'll say, that are out there besides just the mainstream. And you don't usually get that with a mainstream medicine. And it's not the doctor, the practitioner, the PA, whatever, the nurse. It's really not their fault. It's how they're trained. And I was in that same system for the longest time but the more and more you wake up, it's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And so over the past several years, ever since this a couple years ago, the incident that happened, and let's just call it that, I haven't been practicing for years because I don't know how to practice now. And again, first, do no harm. And so at one point I thought that I was the bridge. Like somebody has to be the bridge to go from the current mainstream and then teach people about what we consider alternative therapies and modalities. And for the longest time, well, maybe for a few years, I was accepting of that, and I made it right with myself. But then a few years ago, when all that happened and the whole world shut down, I thought, I just can't do this anymore. And my family they already thought I was a little bit crazy anyway, talking about some of this energy healing and the other things that we talk about. But, I mean, people don't realize the post-traumatic stress that doctors, nurses, we go through when every day you bring that home with you. You've helped the person, and many times you help them, other times you can't. It's not your control. You have no control over some of this. So again, going back to the turbulence, we're all going through that. If we can try to stay as balanced as we can, but you have to look at all aspects of what make you human. And so the dis-ease, I really believe it starts with the emotional component. And again, this isn't medical advice. If you're having problems, you got to go see your medical doctor. For me, I'm just speaking my own personal truth here.
Mm-hmm. Right. And emotions, they're so important. Energy in motion. Remember that. Because if you have a block, and what is a block? An emotional block is usually in the form of a belief system. You think you have to think one way, but you don't. So sometimes when we remove those blocks of the way we think we have to feel and behave, our energy starts to flow again. And that's something that we do with energy healing. We remove those blocks or that turbulence so that the energy can flow smoothly again, and the body can heal itself. Everything that happens to us in our physical bodies has happened through an emotion, through some sort of emotional trigger in our lives. And we underestimate that. And, like Joe was saying, he went through a thing where he wasn't sure where he was belonging because of everything that was happening. And he just wanted to do the right thing. And we have to keep in mind with our loved ones, they're going through the same thing. They might not want to look at the truth because right now they can't. They're not ready. So we got to have a lot of compassion there.
Yeah, absolutely. And our true Gemma is in the house. Good to see you. So this is something I think we need to kind of cover and state something on here clearly. So you have the U.S. border czar, Tom Homan, telling Fox News' Jesse Waters that President Trump intends to dismantle command and control centers of Mexican drug cartels, vowing to put them out of business. Well, that sounds good, right? Wipe them off the face of the earth. Well, they do an awful lot of harm. These are definitely strong words against the cartels that have fueled a drug overdose crisis responsible for deaths of 100,000 Americans each year. Well, the part that is a little disconcerting is where he talks about wiping them off the face of the earth, putting them out of business. If you put them out of business, you take their money away. If they can't buy or bribe Mexican officials, without money, they have no power. Okay, that's still okay. This is the part. We're not going to just we're not just going to attack in Mexico, the Jalisco cartel. We're going to attack them in 43 countries. What? So wait a minute. How is that going to manifest? We're going to attack them in 43 countries. How is that going to manifest? Are we talking about sending in like Navy SEAL teams, assassins. Are we talking about direct intervention militarily in 43 countries? And, it goes on. They have operations currently in 43 countries. We're going to attack them in 43 countries. We're going to attack them worldwide. That's a bold statement. And this is also, when you look farther, they're everywhere from Canada to China. Wait a minute. Are you going to go into China militarily to take out the cartels? It's interesting because I was looking at the documents. There are documents that you can look up yourself from, the White House, the U.S. Department of State, designation of international cartels. There's a fact sheet. I just don't know how you do that without starting complete World War III.
Right. The other thing I'm thinking of as you're talking is like we're singling out a group that are called the cartels, but what about our own agencies that are put into place to protect us that are on the take for, right. I mean, you've heard over and over and over in the news over the years about this. So, I'm like, how are we going to take them out when some of them are us type of a thing? And how do you spread yourself out with 43 different countries? Like, we're spread thin as it is. And what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very fair question. But I have a feeling, since he's mentioning it, he already has something in place that we're not aware of. They're usually 10 years, 15, 50 years ahead of us. That's the problem. That's why I think the more we reel it in and take control of our own lives and our own selves, get our own selves prepared, the less their long-term plans are really going to have effect on us because we can take care of ourselves. So the one thing that I've noted and everyone can see is they want you to need another service on the outside of yourself to be able to function. They want you to have to go to a store. They want you to have to go to a doctor. They want you to have to need the tablets, the computers, and all the things. That way, somebody else is in control of your life. So if that's taken away, like a mean old parent takes away all the toys, the child is just left devastated. It's like, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? We are no different. So the only way to remedy that is really, we got to take control of ourselves so that they're not able to take it away, and we are able to be strong in and of ourselves. And sometimes that means pulling together. Sometimes that means making amends to friends. Sometimes that means getting closer to family. Sometimes that means putting up with stuff that you might not want to. But it's for the good of the all. It's for the good of more people, more than just you. It's more than just one person. You're spreading this ability to be independent far beyond yourself.
Mm-hmm. So in some ways, to me, this feels like a new war on terror, which ultimately can lead to our military like everywhere. I mean, who knows? When you look, this was put out 3 days ago. And it talks about them being in Venezuela, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Ecuador, Bolivia, Brazil, pretty much everywhere in South America. Yeah, absolutely. So, still even more than that, again, 43 countries, Australia, China, and Southeast Asia. Using drones, military-grade weapons, etc., kidnapping, drug trafficking, extortion. Yeah, it would be wonderful if these things were not around anymore. Perhaps this has something to do with the new monetary system that's going to come in and, be outside of their ability to manipulate. Again, we're all very cautious with new monetary systems.
Yeah, if you look at history, specifically the FRN, the FRN, the dollar, what do we get about 100 years before that breaks and falls? Right. And so, 100 and some years ago, give or take, we had the Spanish flu, we had the World War, and then we had the collapse. And so we've had that a couple years ago, the whole world shut down, and then the different wars right now in Ukraine and, the war on terror, the war on whatever. And, I'm just waiting for that collapse of this dollar. We know that it's only worth like and I don't even know whether it's worth anything. Now they're threatening to go into Fort Knox and see if there's even any gold there. I was talking to the president in Chicago of the Federal Reserve years ago, and I was shocked to hear that the only thing that's holding up the dollar, because I said, well, what's holding up? It's not backed by anything anymore, ever since the 70s with Nixon. I said, well, what's holding it up? And he says, confidence. I said, what do you mean? Well, the confidence in the dollar. We believe in it, and therefore that's what keeps it propped up. And I was just like, oh my God, is it really that simple that we've been duped to believe that we're the greatest and the best? And it's hilarious how we're programmed in this country. And if you don't leave the country, you wouldn't otherwise know. I mean, obviously you can get online and look at things, but I had a personal experience where I went to England a few years ago, and I gave them 5 $100 bills. And because we're the greatest country on earth, so we're told, and our dollar's worth so much, I thought that, I'll probably get 550, 600 pound back. Well, I got 298 pound back for my 5 $100 bills, $500. And I said to the lady, I said, did you make a mistake? And she looked up at the wall and she says, no, the exchange is what it is. And I looked out, I said, oh my gosh, that was my first aha, like maybe we're not the greatest country on the planet in some aspects. I mean, we have 320 some million people in this huge, plot of land, and you go over to England, there's 60 million in such a small plot of land, and their pound is worth more than ours. And I got to start doing some research. And so these personal experiences lead you to some of these aha moments.
Yeah, absolutely. And here you see Ukraine has refused to create a $500 billion fund to compensate the U.S. for military aid. According to Bloomberg, Zelensky flatly refused to sign on to Trump's terms, now demands NATO membership immediately, declares he doesn't owe the U.S. anything. Again, I think Zelensky's much more comfortable in a pink tutu and chaps than he is in the camo. That's just saying.
I've kind of seen that. you gotta, these days you gotta go with what you see. You can't really go with anything else.
Oh, I just can't help but thinking of that song. I shake my little tush on the catwalk.
And he had a good time.
Some of this has to be theater. It is so, fact is stranger than fiction, and it's right in our faces. And you're like, when you hear the old saying, life is but a stage, it's like, it has to be. Some of this is just, pre-planned. Like Cindy said, was it 10 years, 20, 50 years? They already have this all planned out, mapped out. Just like the monetary system that falls every 100 years or so. I mean, they slid in Bitcoin how long ago with the cryptocurrency world, and then the SEC and the XRP, their Ripple Labs, they're battling in court over this thing that now all of a sudden, is Swift now going to be encompassed within Ripple and all the other contracts? If you do the research, I learned about Bitcoin years ago, back in somewhere around 2008 to 2010, somewhere around there. A patient came in and it was like 0.0001 or something. And they said, you got to get into this. And I'm like, yeah, that's like monopoly money or a pyramid scheme or something. I ain't getting into that. And here you look, just a few months ago, it went up to $106,000. And if I just would have put $50 on it and held it like monopoly money, I mean, I'd have been like a multi-millionaire. And so this started way back then. Here we are, 2025, and they're just about ready to, it seems to me that, they're talking about this world of digital assets, and we're marching towards it. Why would they be in court fighting over it and making up the rules and say, okay, this is good, this is bad? And up until this point, there is no legal, way that you're allowed or you're not allowed. And they're trying to get that all sorted, which I think they already have it sorted again. Life is but a stage. And I'm just watching it as such. Like, okay, this is a movie. It has to be, because it's just too crazy not to be.
I know. I mean, some of the things that go on, you have to really stand back and make a judgment call and say, are they serious? And Well, at some level, yes, they're having their own movie theater, and a certain amount of people know it. And here we are at the bottom, and we're the ones who are suffering whatever consequences of the movie theater that they want to play. It gets very, very frustrating. And no matter how you look at it, it keeps circling around to you got to take responsibility for yourself, mind, body, spirit, practice. That's the direction that the nature wants to go. And we're moving up in vibration. I think the more we embrace that, yet there's got to be a bridge to the new monetary system. You have to be willing to give in just the right places, and to be able to walk this bridge to make yourself self-sufficient. You can't be super rigid and just say, oh, I absolutely will not do that. I mean, I have some things that I absolutely will not do, but that has to do with my body and my health and everything else. And I am very rigid about that. But when it comes to the monetary system, if I have to give or something there, as long as I don't have to do anything to my body, well, I'm going to do what I need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Here you're seeing this article's talking about the FDA, how so many people were let go. And quietly, some people were being called back. So here they're going against, at least some levels of the FDA are going against Doge. I like to call it Dodge more than Doge because I feel like they're dodging things. Yeah, I want to put a D in there, but we could call it Doge. Going against the purge and calling people back. I think again, a lot of times we think things are going to happen way quicker than they do. They end up taking a lot longer than we were thinking, hoping, expecting. There still is time for them to create, their conditions of a civil conflict within the U.S. And I think that's always been part of the plan, is to cause that from within before we're attacked from without. Of course, we have tons of sleeper cells in the country, as we all know. But then a lot of people lose their motivation, and they might get comfortable. They might actually like their neighbors, and they might want to just have a normal life, and especially in the times when we are in ascension, where people are starting to see the bigger picture and just realize, everybody but the kings and queens are just pawns to the system, and those kings and queens really are nothing but just lower management, still pawns themselves. But again, a lot of people won't want to go through as they're being hit with the light from the sun and the energy from the cosmos, which is triggering truly our evolution of consciousness, which is the most important subject that we really could talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so they have us set up in a world of problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem that they already have the solution for. They just wait for our reaction, and they become our saviors. And we're stuck in this loop, and this chronic, up, down, fear. And fear, if you look at it vibrationally, if you look on one extreme, it's fear, and it's a low vibration. It's dense. It keeps you still. You can't move in fear. But then if you get into unconditional love, which is the other extreme, I mean, it's such a high vibration. When you experience it, it's almost euphoric. And so, and a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that we have lower vibrational aspects of what make us you or us. And we also have the love. And we live in polarity, hot, cold, good, bad, up, down. We're here. The best thing you could possibly do, in my opinion, is to balance all aspects that make you you, and again, skirting the tops of the waves rather than the up and down and up and down. And so, again, we always go back to vibration, but if you look at it from the 30,000 foot view, it's all energy. And so it's all related. And so we're talking about various things throughout the show, and it sounds like we're jumping here to there, but it is literally all related. It's all how you look at it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the fun thing. They are all related. We're pulling it all together. It's like this big whirling pool, and the information is going around, and it's coming together, and it's coming in tighter and tighter and tighter. And more people are going to get that. They're going to understand that, we're in one very large ocean, and, all the rivers and streams, they all might be coming from different places, but they all go to that same ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Germany's holding elections today, and we see the election turnout 52% as of now, highest in decades. Well, again, they keep track of things like economic participation. There's a lot of people that are dropping out economically of the system. They're doing what they can to barter and trade to become their own little island. I think as we do that, that's when we start to create alternatives, try to work around the system, try to extricate ourselves from the system. I think you see it's obvious they want to create this top-down pyramid everywhere. They want one global order, which there has been, but it's been hiding in the shadows. And there has been, these nonstop conflicts, which are part of the purpose is to convince you that there is no one order. But the reality is there is an order guiding the conflicts, and we see they play both sides, and they make money off of both sides in war, and then after the war in the rehab, and then the rebuilding, they make money there. And it's just an ever tightening noose. You could view it as a big snake, or a noose around the neck every time they go through one of these cycles of expansion and contraction. Or if, as we were talking about in today's Patreon, we go through minor resets, and then you have your big resets, your great resets. And participating in the system, they want you to participate. They want you to be passionate about it. They want you to be up in arms about it and to vehemently take a side. I think we could often point to one side and say, well, this one looks to be a little less harmful than that. Ideally, we want to get out of the system. That's the thing. So you break it down. I think we're going to have little pockets of little islands that are going to defy the system until there's more and more, and the system no longer has total control and starts to crumble. But it really may take time. I mean, we still probably have years to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, the greatest thing is that we get to see this. We're here living on this planet at this time during what some may call the revelations or the ascension process. But, 20 years ago, we wouldn't be able to have this discussion on a platform like this to reach so many people. And here we are discussing this. We're coming together, and it's actually refreshing to be able to talk to other people that I don't have to give the backstory that took me 20 years to figure all this stuff out. And almost any topic you talk about, they already know the backstory. And so now that we know all that, the history and the energy and everything else, how do we move forward with this in a balanced way? And so some of the things that I talk about is, and this isn't my phrase, this is coined by somebody, I don't know who, or I give them credit, but they call it the feather brick truck effect. And so the universe has done this to me over and over, and I must be a hard learner, because I'll get the feather, the little tickle, like, yeah, you don't want to do that, you might want to move away from that. And then I get hit in the back of the head with a brick, and then I start to wake up a little bit like, what the hell happened there? Oh my God. And I still keep doing the same thing, and it's not till I get run over by the truck that I finally wake up and go, oh, that's what you were trying to tell me. So if you're smart, you would take the feather effect and go, oh, okay, I don't want to go down that path because I don't want to experience this anymore. What are you trying to show me, universe? How can I get over this? Yep, I'm open-minded. I want to see this, and I want to get over it so I don't have to experience it again.
Yep. I like that term, feather brick truck. I get it. I have been there too. It's like you kind of learn to take the warnings and heed the warnings, but at the same time, I mean, sometimes a little bit of extra processing, a little bit of extra fine tuning is not a bad thing. It really, we're all coming out of this very beautiful vessels because of everything we've gone through. So even if it is a feather, a brick, or a truck, it's going to turn out looking really good in the end. It's going to be okay. It's just how much of that do we need? And sometimes we need a lot. And it's not easy for me to say because I've been through some hard things and I've asked Source. It's like, did it really have to be that hard? Did it really? Are you serious? Did it really have to be that hard? And I hate to admit that sometimes, yeah, things did have to be that difficult.
Absolutely. But we do see things happening. South Carolina filed a bill making ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine over the counter. You could always get wormwood too. These are very, very helpful things. We've seen chemtrails be banned supposedly in certain states, but they're still happening. So it's going to take time, but there are signs.
Yeah, this is all part of the revelation. And so a lot of what we're discussing is waking up to the truth of the control mechanism that's been in place. And then now, ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, some of these medications, and this isn't medical advice, I'm just being general here. You have to contact your own, doctor or provider. But these medicines are being repurposed. And even though they weren't studied for a particular ailment, they call it writing the prescription off-label. And you tell your patient, like, look, it's not meant for this, but in my practice, I've seen that it works awesome for this, whether it be an anti-inflammatory, an anti-big C. And, I'd like to say so much more on here because there's so much that I've researched and found out. But again, you got to put yourself in the shoes of the provider, because there's things that they probably know, but they can't say because we're limited through the fear of litigation and everything else. And so when we do broadcasts like this, I always have to say, this is for entertainment purpose only, or educational purposes, or whatever. I can lead you by just simply saying, hey, go look this up. Oh, you have an ailment? And this is the best question to ask a provider. And if they know, they'll probably tell you, but they might not. They might be like, I used to say, just go look it up. But they might, if you ever ask them, what would you do if you had this? Or what would you do for your son or daughter or grandchild? What would you do for them if they had this? And their opinion may change, and some of them may have never been asked that, and they'll be shocked and go, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I wouldn't be doing what I'm telling you. I hate to say that, but there are alternative things that are out there that can be done. On this broadcast, I think that's as far as I can go.
Yeah, probably. But it's interesting how Mike and Joe have been in the similar positions working with these different types of energies. And, Mike has posed the question to the person that's making the concoction, or, that thing that the doctor has ordered. And Mike says, well, would you take that for you? And they're, the answer generally has been no, but this is just for entertainment purposes only. And the way I get around that is I'm able to speak to people as far as what I did for myself and what I did for my healing. So if I ever sound selfish out there, only talking about me, that's really, honestly, that's the only way we can talk about it, and get the information out. So, there's ways.
Yeah, this again is what I brought up last time we were talking about Dr. Joe, again, Dr. Joseph Mara. He's done videos with us, and he's done them with Rex Bear, Leak Project, and you've been on a bunch of other shows too. He's just been focusing more on his own thing, and so we're kind of welcoming him back to live broadcast. But yeah, lots of experiences in a lot of different venues. And yeah, it's true. I mean, when I was working, I spent 4 years in a pharmaceutical company. Yes, I did. And this is where it formed a lot of my opinions, and it just so happened to coincide with when I got Lyme's. And we had, again, at any one time, we were helping people, well, that's the theory, about 50, typically somewhere between 40 and maybe 60 or so people on our client roles that were battling Lyme disease with all the big antibiotics, and it just seemed like what I saw was most of them were not improving. They were developing other problems, and so this led me to go down a different route and to contact an herbalist, naturopath, doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, all wrapped up in one. And that person really helped to bring me to where I am now. Really, that was the key. Me getting sick was the key to being right here, right now, where the Lyme's doesn't control my life, and truly, I haven't felt any residue of it for most of my life after that.
There's a lot of ways that you can find yourself just doing better and better when you start to move toward nature and start to do things the way nature intended. It takes some time. It really takes some time. So when you go to natural modalities, you're not going to have the same experience. You expect to take a pill and maybe be better in a few days. No, when you go to natural modalities, you really need to understand what you're doing, and then you need to give it time, because it's not just about the body healing, it's about the body, mind, and soul.
So Angel 10 says, when did this system begin? Without saying things that will get us in trouble, it really was something that slowly came into effect about 100 years ago, I would say. Would you say, Joe?
Yeah, so there was a... God, there's so much I could say about this. The one thing that we were talking about earlier today was what was implemented to make mainstream medicine mainstream. That if you didn't toe the line and you didn't use big pharma, they would start considering it like chiropractics. They would call it quackery. And fortunately, when I was 19 years old, I was into construction, and I was falling trees, and I grew up on the farm. So I was always having, not always, but I'd have problems with my back every once in a while. And so I'd go to the chiropractor, and he'd put me back in place, and I felt like $1 million. So I was always a believer in it. So you go to the mainstream world, and they're just like, yeah, that's not even, we're not referring to that. And I was like shocked. And so when you have your own personal experiences, you actually have a different viewpoint. And again, I mean, how many, if I'm doing what I'm doing, and I learned what I learned throughout my education, how many other people are like me that have these experiences or have had them prior to them going to school, and them bumping elbows with all kinds of other people that are telling them different modalities and what this worked or that worked? I can't be alone in all this. And the one, what was it, it wasn't all that long ago, Mike, that they, I'm trying to think of the
with all the education, how they took it over.
Yeah, who was the guy that was that did all that?
Oh,
not Vanderbilt. It was
no. It's Rockefeller.
Rockefeller. That's right.
But
the initiative.
It was also done through one primary agent, that kind of worked his way in, and they did like they do now. I mean, again, if you are the one that's funding all the research, you're the one that has the pocketbooks that pay out all the researchers. Yeah. I mean, they have this thing called lobbying, and we just hear it, and we don't really connect what lobbying truly is. What is lobbying? Political lobbying? It's bribery. It's legalized bribery. That's what it is. There's no other way around it. That just shows you the corruption of this system. And what we have going on is a system that controls every aspect. It controls the media. It controls, a lot of the books in print. I mean, the stuff that doctors are going and, they're studying in school. It's literally, you trace it back. It again comes from that one family, and when I think about the two big families, the Rocky Fellers and the Red Shields, those are the predominant families we always hear about. There's more. And then again, there's those that are operating in the shadows. But yeah, you can overcome. Amanda said she was diagnosed with Lyme from a tick bite in 2015. The daily pain is unbearable. There's a lot you can do, and Joe's going to tell you.
Yeah, so I'm not going to tell you what to do because I'm not your doctor, but I'd tell you to look up ozone therapy. I went to California, and if you looked up the YouTube channel Dr. Rowan, like rowing a boat, Rowan, MD, my first experience was with when I went to Philadelphia. I went to a conference there, And I was blown away. Like before I left, I was halfway through, and he was saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna do some training, and I'm only taking like 5 to 10 people." As soon as we went on break, I called his office out in California from Philadelphia, and I booked it because it was so monumental what I was learning, and so I flew out. I was out there for several days to a week, and I didn't just take the training from the doctor. I actually talked to the patients that were coming in for their treatment because I wanted to know. Sure, you can hear all kinds of stuff from the doctor who's training you, but I wanted an opinion from somebody that was getting the treatment. And after that was done, I drove up to New York. Dr. Howard, gosh, I can't remember his last name now. Anyway, he was in New York City, and I was there for a few days as well. And I talked to his patients, and it was just amazing what that ozone would do for you. So I took the training, and we're going to probably have to do maybe a video on that and regenerative medicine, like high dose vitamin C. I mean, I was working for a clinic in Arizona that they were doing stem cell, and but what I found, the exosomes were just amazing what they were doing, and you know, that's probably going to be another video, but wait till you hear some of the results of that. But ozone, I've seen some amazing things with that, and it's something that you guys could look up.
Yeah, and there's other things too. And, you know, on Patreon, we talked about this plant that is related to the coffee tree, which I'm hesitant to speak about. But, you know, I could tell you firsthand, it takes away all the aches and pains of, you know, arthritis and things like that. It's amazing, you know, and again, it's something that the mainstream system it hates with a passion. And so they've demonized it. But again, the mainstream makes so much money on pain and suffering. That's the bottom line. Here you see Elon with his Teslas. Yeah, this reminds me of the Obama movie, how they were used to block off bridges and things. You know, again, everything is so telegraphed, so far ahead. And here you have dozens of farmers from across the country donating hundreds of beehives to Western North Carolina beekeepers who lost their hives during Hurricane Helene. We see how people will reach out and help each other. I do not believe people are inherently evil. I think the vast majority of people are inherently good. I just think the control system is inherently evil, and it has a disproportionate effect on our reality, or has had.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when that hurricane came through North Carolina, and I had spent some time in Asheville and the surrounding area because I was looking to relocate at that time from Pennsylvania, and I knew the area pretty well and the people, and one of my buddies, he's a pilot, and he flew supplies up there from Raleigh to North Carolina in the Asheville area. And so boots on the ground, again, you can hear whatever you want on the internet, but when you physically go there and you see the destruction, the devastation, you hear the stories of the people that are sitting there, like the Amish were coming from Pennsylvania down there to build their tiny homes, and they were blocking it, and the letter agencies were blocking all this. People from all over the country and other countries actually were coming there to help and assist. So inherently, I agree with you, Mike. We have this inherent goodness about us that that we want to help one another, and it's not until the big government, Big Daddy is overseeing it and saying, no, you can't do this. No, you need a permit for doing that. And and by the way, that mountain has what mineral in there that we want to. It almost seems like there's an agenda there. Like when something gets wiped out, it's like, why do they want this area? And you go back through history, and you know, whether it be in Hawaii, what happened there, or the fires in California. There's always, it just seems like there's an agenda. And again, I don't want to be in the negative state, but you really have to look at each aspect to see what's really going on so you can pivot around this and go, okay, this is a reality. Okay, how do we make the changes that are necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. As you look at what to me looks like it may be a big door of sorts, it certainly is a giant door. Is it a portal to another realm? Is it something relic from the past? How big would somebody be to move a door like that? Wow, but our history is just amazing, and it's magical, and it's loaded with all sorts of beings that are in our myths and legends. That's the reality. The myths and legends are all based on facts. And Wayne, again, our Wayne Steiger, he's been doing a lot of videos focusing on Saturn, the black cube, but also he was talking about the ancient gods and the Roman and Greek gods in particular. Why do they still teach us that particular mythology in school? And his contention is they've never left. They're really here. Again, Deuteronomy 32:8. Plato, talking to Critias, talks about when the gods left. Again, these were never gods. These are just beings with more knowledge than us. And they're not all bad. The ones that gave us the system, yeah, they're self-serving. They're arrogant. They're egotistical. They're bastards. They're not nice. And yet, some were just the opposite. Some were literal incarnated angels that helped us in so many positive ways. We see this Tartarian looking buildings. There's no reason to build something like this unless it's really just sort of a celebration of creation, in my mind.
I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at all this different substance, the stone, the water. I mean, this is all to create a high vibrational area, high vibrational space. It's something that we can really feel like we're in a really good place. That's what I see. It's like I see it visually, and I feel it with my heart and my soul. Like, this is something that's meant to lift you up into a higher consciousness.
Yeah, if you were to look, I'll bet you it's on a ley line or a node point where there's an intersecting ley line on the planet. And a lot of people don't buy into that, but I'll tell you, living in Pennsylvania, where I lived, was kind of a low, dense environment. And I lived in the mountains, physically, but I went to work in the city. And it was probably a 20 to 30 minute drive, and not a big city, maybe 100,000, 150,000. When I was in the mountains, I felt better. And, if you're sensitive, which I think we all can be if you pay attention, when I would fly from Pennsylvania, when I was in my exploration, I went to a MUFON conference in Laughlin, Nevada. And when you flew in and you landed, it was palpable. When I was in New Mexico, it was a fiery energy. I had so much energy, I had to work out twice a day, first thing in the morning and at night before I went to bed, because I had to burn off all the extra energy that I felt there. And then I would fly back home, and when I'm back home, it was just, I get a migraine behind my eyes. I'm like, oh no, here we are. And it was a couple things. I really believe that it was a more dense place on the planet, and I had to process the energies that I received when I went away. And so my psychic abilities would turn up and turn on whenever I was at these higher vibrational places. And I went to, say, the E-City Ranch there in Trout Lake, Washington with James Gilliland. So we're up there, and there was a whole bunch of people, at least 30 to 50 people, that were seeing the same thing as what I was seeing. We're witnessing it. And the only thing I could attribute that to is that it was palpable that right in that area, it was a higher vibration, which shifts your vision to allow you to see more than what you normally would be able to see. So like a tuning fork, you tune to the environment. You are part of the planet, and everything is vibrational. Again, this is all related. You raise the vibration, and now all of a sudden, all the people are tuned into one another at the same time. You're seeing the same things, whereas you may be at a different part of the planet, and it's a lower, dense vibration, and you cannot see it. So to me, that explains why some people see things. They are either holding a higher vibration, and therefore their vision is a little bit wider, or some people call it a gift. But I've witnessed this by going all over the place. And so, again, to me, it was palpable. And it's just something I'm relaying to you that you may try to be conscious of it, where you go to some of these places that are said to be higher vibrational, or there's portals there, or they're seeing UFOs there, and you may see the same thing.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an exciting thing to have your sight expanded and to have your awareness grow. So, who's your preference here? List the 10 best lead singers of all time. Now, this is looking, I think, towards the rock side. Out of this, I got to go with Robert Plant. That's just me.
You know, I just don't know. Here.
I'm with you, Cindy. I can't pick. There are too many greats.
It's all yours, Mike.
I've always been a Led Zeppelin fan. I just love Led Zeppelin, and, that's kind of... But, again, you got to tend to the mischievous side of things. This little guy, he's a mischievous guy. Oh, he knows what he did. Oh! It's in all of us. We could all be a little mischievous at times, and sometimes we got to kind of reel it in and say, should I really do that? Should I really do that?
I don't know. You've hung out this long. Thank you so much. In just a second, we're going to give you guys a ding. We're going to connect you to higher self. We're going to use a tuning fork that's tuned to the tune of love.
And me and Joe will run some energy,
Yep.
And we'll give you guys a little blast of positivity to counteract the darkness that we sometimes are experiencing in our lives.
So I have to ask you guys to please find a happy place. And okay, and Joe's going to be running energy. Mike's running energy. I already feel it in my legs. Oh my gosh, here we go. Find a happy place, happy thoughts, and here we go. 3 dings. Hold on. Hold on to that happy thought. Look at these baby goats. Be super happy. Get yourself in a state of just really high positivity and enjoy your day. And thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, guys. May you all be blessed and kept in positive abundance.
Sending you all love, light, and laughter.
Source bless and namaste.